All right, Tommy told us here. Let's go get him. We have the Marvel's exit survey. Nick, what is the synopsis here?
I'm so sorry. I thought I was waiting for that. Like I knew. I'm like, he's got to be doing this. I didn't hear any music before. Anyways, the synopsis for the Marvels: Carol Danvers gets her powers entangled with those of Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau, forcing them to work together to save the universe.
This was written and directed by Nia DaCosta, starring Brie Larson as Carol Danvers or Captain Marvel, Teyonah Parris as Monica Rambeau, Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel, Samuel L. Jackson as a very different Nick Fury from what we last saw him as, Zawe Ashton as Dar-Ben, Gary Lewis as Emperor Drogi, Park Seo-joon as Prince Yan, Zenobia Shroff as Muniba Khan, Mohan Kapoor as Yusuf Khan, and Sagar Sheikh. I tried as Amir Khan.
Yeah. And then as for the,
I gotta win one of the. I gotta put out a poll one of these days. We gotta flip the script on it.
I was like ready to offer, like, do you want to just flip it next time? Because I think this you did a good job here, but like you've been doing it for a long time.
This has been the murderer's row here. This was a tough one.
If you decide to flip it next time, I would be okay with that. And
we'll see. Maybe that'll be my Christmas gift to you.
I think I'm the one giving the Christmas gift here.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, I just don't want to buy you anything. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so this brought in 117 million worldwide so far, 54.8 million domestic on, unfortunately, a $273.8 million budget. Suffered the biggest second week drop off for a comic book movie ever, 77.9%, followed by Morbius, then The Flash, Dark Phoenix. It's got a 6 out of 10 on IMDb, and then it's got a 62-84 split on Rotten Tomatoes, which we talked about a little while back. 2.8 out of 5 on Google reviews, with 52% of Google users liking this movie.
Yeah, so that leaves it to us, and maybe we can cheer things up after those low scores there. And I think I didn't have this on the box office there, but in regards to the second week drop off, I want to say it's either Quantumania or Thor 4 that had the record for an MCU movie. I think that was in the high 60s.
You want to know something weird? So we went. Obviously, we did this the second weekend. Both you and I, but the missus went with me as well, and. When we've been to quite a few premieres of MCU movies at our new theater in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and I've seen, like, on the opening nights or opening Saturday, whatever, nobody. Like, it's quiet. But like I saw, like, I think Ant-Man I had that happen with, but then with the Marvels I saw more. I didn't see, like, it wasn't like it was loaded or anything, but I definitely saw more people at the Marvels than I did when I went to Ant-Man.
I saw this on Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock showing. So there were 3 other people in the theater with me, but there may have been 10 total in the whole, in the whole movie theater.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not like I had a crazy ton more. I just, I'm probably in an area. It just seems like I'm in an area where you only, like, it's more family movies that do well. Yeah. Because, like, Mario was bumping and Spider-Man, Spider-Verse was bumping up here. Black Panther was probably the biggest one. The biggest MCU one I've seen so far. The second Black Panther movie, like, up here.
I think so. I think that's probably about right too for an MCU movie.
Yeah, probably. But anyways,
what do we think about? I'll go first here. I'll give it. I'll go with my score and tweet length review. Is 79 out of 100. This is right on par with Miss Marvel for me. But this was a fun, albeit very disjointed superhero movie where I think Iman Vellani once again kind of steals the show. This features a handful of fun, exciting moments, but feels like a compilation video more than, again, one cohesive story. I'm not and unfortunately, I'm not sure this salvages the public perception of Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. I'm not sure if this movie really does her any favors. From her role in the movie overall to, like, what feels like the character is being, I don't know. The character doesn't really see a lot of growth for me from the first movie to now. And then with Endgame and Infinity War in between. It's a long review, but I got Twitter blue for that.
I
think I landed that plane.
I'll make up for it. So I got 84 out of 100 for the Marvels. Fun movie that's all about relationships created and developed along the way. Short, sweet, simple, to the point.
To the point, absolutely. So you're 84 and my 79 adds up to, where am I here?
I
I thought it
think
was at
that's
33.
81
The
and a half.
Marvels. Yeah, 81 and a half. That comes in at number 33 in our CMMCU rankings. Just behind Thor: Love and Thunder and just ahead of Secret Invasion. How do you feel about that placement?
I think that's I think that's pretty fair. I mean, it puts it kind of, in the latter half of it all, but
Mm-hmm.
still kind of it more towards the middle. So yeah, I guess it's like the three quarters of the way down the list. But high three, like
Yeah,
mid, no, that kind
10
of,
from the bottom.
I would say that makes sense
Yeah,
by and
okay.
large.
Yeah, I feel like that feels right. I think
I think
Thor:
the
Love and Thunder and the Marvels for me kind of got to the same end result, but in different directions, if that makes sense.
mhm. The biggest thing for me is that when I was done, I landed on 84 pretty much right away,
Mm-hmm.
and but then I was like, I can see anybody giving this a 75 to an 85 for this movie.
Yeah,
And obviously,
it's
I'm
not as bad as people say.
no,
That was my biggest takeaway.
no, it definitely wasn't. I do. We talk about, like, well, sometimes I wonder with marketing how, like, important things are, but with this having the come out right after the strike and kind of getting screwed over in that way, I do wonder like how
Mm-hmm.
much of a difference that made. Um, but also that's also money saved, so maybe that helps kind of soften the blow.
Well, and that's an interesting point. I wonder if someone needs to look at how these movies are being packaged and what they're being packaged around, right? So, like, Captain Marvel, for example, was sandwiched between the two of the biggest movies in Marvel history, right? With Infinity War and Endgame.
Yep.
So you had this hype here and that huge I guess success kind of flowing right into it. So you wanted to go see the Captain Marvel, but the Marvels is coming off Secret Invasion. It's coming off of Aquamania. It's coming off of Thor: Love and Thunder. Loki was a good series, but a lot of these things aren't exactly like
Hmm.
helping it out to kind of build up what's coming. A
Sure.
rising tide like raises all ships, like that kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
The tide feels like a little bit lower than it was in the past for Marvel.
Yeah. And Captain Marvel like killed it in theaters, but
Yeah, I mean $1 billion. Yeah,
this is and obviously this is not even close, but like from like a what movie would you, if you had to go watch one of the two right now, which one are you watching?
yeah. I would probably have more. I would have more fun with the Marvels, which is why one of the reasons why I didn't like Captain Marvel is too serious. It's one of the reasons why I think the character overall doesn't really work. It's too serious. But I thought adding Monica Rambeau and definitely Iman Vellani, Kamala Khan to the mix kind of added that to that levity a little bit more that we were missing in Captain Marvel.
Yeah. Now I for me, this one actually I like Captain Marvel a lot more in this go around, but I think because she's on a team. I also think that when we talk
Hmm.
about like Captain Marvel the movie, the original movie, it's when we talk about like formulaic stuff, it felt like that was a little bit more of that. Not
Hmm.
to the degree of like what we're talking about, like a Morbius or anything like that, but it just felt like looking at it now, it felt like it's from a different era of
Yeah.
MCU products.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, so
That's
let's
my
let's
issue.
let's dive in because this was the pre-exit survey that we're just kind of going through right now. Now we're getting diving right into it.
Yeah.
Um, who do you think this movie was made for, Nick?
Fans of the Miss Marvel show, period.
Mm-hmm.
100%. If you like that show, you will like this. No questions asked.
I agree. I think this is we kind of have a Venn diagram of the same answer here, right? So I think this feels like a kid, young adult movie. Yeah, that's kind of who it's made for, which is what the audience I think was geared towards for Miss Marvel. So I think there's a lot of overlap in that. Obviously, with having Kamala Khan as your lead, that's going to be geared. You're trying to win a certain audience there, and that's going to be that younger audience, right? So I think that part of that is you're going to be gearing everything towards that audience there.
I think this will be viewed too as like a turn. I I think this will unfairly be looked at like a turning point too in the course of this, because I think the other
The box office for sure. I mean, that's inevitable at that
the
point, right?
the box office is the biggest reason, but we already heard all these changes and everything that was going on at Marvel, how the showrunner stuff and all these different things, like marketing, blah blah blah, all that
Hmm.
whatnot. I think this is going to be viewed as the turning point, but I think this is also like this will be the last movie where it's like, yeah, we're just here to have fun and kind of like develop the characters, spend some time with the characters. Because like this era is this fourth phase, and we're in the fifth technically now, right?
Yeah, I think we are. Yeah, yeah.
So this fourth and fifth phase has been more about like developing the characters and not worrying about the larger connective tissue.
Hmm.
And I think that now, because everything's been pushed back except for Deadpool, which doesn't, you can still do that. This will be the real shift for all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Here,
We looked at
do
that
you
at least.
do you think that this movie is could have been made for less than 278 million?
I
Like, I
mean,
think that's the bigger issue. I think they got to slash their budget. I think this movie could have easily been made for under 278 million. You slash the budget of this movie, and just you have the same story pretty much. I think a lot of it still hangs in place there.
I mean, it's a cosmic character, like with Miss Marvel being the major plot, like of the like plot driver of the three characters that we're focused on here. I don't know.
I hear you, but it's not like I wasn't blown by the CGI or the special effects here already. And it was a 200 and again almost $300 movie,
I mean, I didn't think they were.
$300 million movie.
Did you think they were bad?
I didn't think they were bad, but it's not something that I came away with, So it's
Oh,
like
well.
I don't know. It's not, if it is really a cosmic Marvel movie that's a tentpole, you think it would be kind of like stunning visually, and that's not
Mm.
something I would use to describe this film. It's not bad. It's just
No,
not
it's not.
something that I would lean towards either to
I
like
wouldn't. I
praise
wouldn't.
it for.
I wouldn't call it like a stunning visual experience. It was fun, and I did like the stuff that, like, from a plot standpoint, that like you needed to do, like, and I think we'll get into that more later. I don't know if I want to. We're kind of jumping ahead.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, yeah. So this kind of goes into it. What was your favorite story of this movie? The Captain Marvel 2, Miss Marvel 2, or I guess WandaVision 2? That feels weird saying that, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of that. So I think I have to go with Miss Marvel too. I mean, that's not hard at all. That was
Mhm.
definitely, it was all about her in her meeting her hero and getting to learn about that experience with her. But I will say too that I enjoyed what they did with Carol here, and how they kind of spun it with her a little bit, but ultimately where it led to the like what the villain did, because those things, that approach to restore her world was like, this is fucked up. Like, this is insane. So I
Yeah,
enjoyed.
yeah. We'll get into the villain in a little bit.
Yep.
There.
Sorry,
Say
I'm jumping
my
ahead.
thoughts. No. I'm with you on that. I'm kind of reminding myself, so I'm like, all right, don't get into that. But I agree with it. Miss Marvel 2. That's everything that I liked about it. Again, Iman Vellani. This is, I feel like, the big takeaway from the movie. Is just how charming she is on screen. Now, I wonder how much that can last for. You can only be the newcomer who's like doe-eyed or like deer in headlights and just kind of like in awe of the moment for so long before it's like, all right, now you're a part of the team, right? So it's like,
Mm.
let's how much can you actually use that for? But I think for the moment right now, that's working great. It felt like we missed a big chunk of Captain Marvel's story. It's just kind of explained away, and then we get a very brief scene of her becoming the Annihilator and destroying the Kree AI. So it feels like this is almost like Captain Marvel 2.5, and then there's like some portion of the movie that we didn't see.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like, I'm not crazy about that, particularly where this is like, in theory, her sequel. And then Monica Rambeau, a lot of her character, again, I think Teyonah Parris did a good job. I think she was, added to a nice complimentary role, but I found her character to be confusing.
Yeah, there's some confusing bits surrounding her character, but I do want to go back to the Captain Marvel thing. As much as there is stuff with her, that I did like in this. With like, I like the Annihilator stuff and how we're hearing mention of it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But where I think I feel similar to you is like we saw the character in her origin story. We see her pop up in Endgame. I feel like we've seen her pop up somewhere else. Maybe I'm misremembering, but like it's just so much could have happened
Mm-hmm.
between now
And
and then. If
Shang-Chi was a Shang-Chi end credit scene.
that might have been it, but it's just like this is where we go here. It just felt like it was like, I'm not saying it can't be within the realm of it all, but it's just how did we get to this point now with the Kree? Because I feel like you did that you attacked their place like that a long while back.
Right, that was like
So
30 years ago, right? In the 90s technically, and this is
yeah,
what, 2025, 2027. What current day MCU timeline there. So,
yeah,
what's kind of gone on in those 30 years, right? So I agree. Just you kind of yada over that, right?
yeah. So like, while I like some of it, it's not done. It's not perfect. There's no question.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I did like what you said about, again, Kamala Khan meeting her hero,
Yeah.
and how expectations versus reality, and kind of coming to the grips that she's not like this gold-hearted hero that you think has the best intentions. She's really just trying to get by and save as many people as she can. So I thought that was a really interesting story. No, would have liked a little to pull on that a little bit more. I think that was really one of the more intriguing parts of the movie.
Yeah, it was no question. It was absolutely the best part. 1,000%.
What you think of Dar-Ben, and where does she rank among MCU villains for you?
Oh, well, I mean, she's going to end up being a forgettable one. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
question about it. I mean, you look at, is it Malekith, who's like an extremely forgettable one? I mean, I like Ronan, but Ronan is a forgettable one.
Oh, and this feels, derivative of Ronan. Maybe you might know
Yes.
more about Dar-Ben in the comics. Are they related? Is that the deal,
Well,
or
I mean,
they're just both Kree?
they're just both Kree as far as I
Yeah.
know. But like at the same time, like I do think that her motivations make a lot of sense. I think she does have badass moments, but the real problem with how the character's written in the end is that like she is so calculated and two steps ahead every step of the way. And hey, I got no
Hmm.
problem with like Martin, the Marvels figuring it out at the end with the son, like, oh, this is where she's gonna go. Okay, cool, totally makes sense. They figure it out, but at the same time, like she goes and gets the bangles in
Hmm.
this moment in this battle, and then I know she's wanted it, but like she goes and acts all brash and everything, and just loses her shit, and
Hmm.
then ends up dying. I don't know. It just felt like a very big leap for the character. I know there was opportunity, but it just seemed like she'd been above that for a while, and she's like she just found out that Miss Marvel had the
You're talking,
bangles.
yeah, you're talking when she gets stabbed, or the big stone falls on her right at the end, and then they figure out that Captain Marvel can recharge her son.
Hmm.
And they go to help her. They lift the stone up off of her, and then she kind of does like a double cross move on them.
Yep, and then she takes she takes the bangle from Miss
Hmm.
Marvel, and then she goes and uses it, and it ends up killing her. So I
Yeah.
just felt like I get it that maybe you thought you were already going to die. Okay, I'll chalk it up to that. But it's just, again, she was above that kind of like out of like gut reaction. She's way more calculated than that.
That was a huge shift in character for. Yeah, I agree. That I didn't like that decision. It felt like, as cheesy as it might have been for an all woman film to be like, put aside their differences and figure out some common ground and then help each other out. Like, that feels like kind of on the nose there, but I think that would have worked a lot better than what ended up happening.
I yeah, that might have worked out better. I don't need them to necessarily get along at the end. I just think that her like being all brash and like
Hmm.
where she wasn't that really. I mean, like I guess she was emotional and pissed, but not that. That was just like I don't know, felt like a little too irrational for the character.
Yeah, it just seems like if they were to able, like, if Dar-Ben came back with Captain Marvel to her planet and was like, "Listen, we got the sun fixed. I brought you the air. I brought you the water, and now our the person who destroyed our world, we've mended fences with, and now we don't have to worry about her anymore. Now there's an alliance or something like that, or truce. I think that's a pretty amicable ending."
I Well, but the problem with that though is she still took an atmosphere and like water from two separate planets.
Yeah, but Captain Marvel destroyed is the Annihilator. You know, they both made mistakes at the end of the day.
I don't want them getting along at the end. I don't.
Yeah,
I just
I don't
we're
know.
different on that one.
Would have been okay on that. But yeah, ultimately, I don't get Darben. It felt kind of rushed. Again, if we had that backstory of the Annihilator going into it, like if the movie opened up with Captain Marvel destroying the Kree AI, which is an interesting take, Nick. I know you're very much against AI, but this seemed to be pretty necessary. Like it was running their whole planet.
Yeah, well, I wonder what.
So it's interesting in the messaging because most movies are like anti-AI, and this seems to be almost pro-AI.
But one could also argue that you shouldn't become that reliant on AI because then this kind of shit happens when someone takes it out. You crumble as a society.
Well, yeah, it's like some may call Captain Marvel a terrorist. Everyone's freedom fighter is someone else's terrorist.
There's no question that they would call it. I get why they didn't like her. I totally get it. But at the same time, don't have that AI. You don't have some of those problems.
I think it's interesting. It feels like
they're also a-holes too. Let's be real here. I get they were victims in a sense here, but like the Kree are not nice to anybody else.
But so this is the thing. You might know that from the comics, but we don't really know that.
I mean, we know that with the Skrulls and how they were persecuted by the Kree.
Yeah, but they tell us that. You know what I mean? Like we're only
Ronan was also Kree.
Yeah, Cronin was Kree, yeah, but we don't really know much about like the Kree world. We're just kind of told that they're, you know what I mean? I don't know. So again, it feels like another instance of them just telling us and not showing us. And I think again, if you open up with, that her becoming the Annihilator and then Darben witnessing the fall of her planet, I think that then you understand her motivation a little bit more clear as the rest of the movie unfolds, as opposed to finding it out after she's already searching for the Bengals on the moon planet with her team. You know what I mean?
I do think it would have been good to have that scene of Captain Marvel taken out by AI sooner. I do think that actually would have played really well.
What was the most rewatchable scene?
Oh, I knew it as it was going on. I'm like when they're trying to figure out their powers, we're like, let's no more of this, and like let's just get on the same page.
The montage.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved it. And was that the Beastie Boys song we saw in the trailer?
I think so. I think that was the Beastie Boys song. Yeah.
It played so well. Absolutely loved it.
I love the opening comic book scene for Miss Marvel. I think that's an awesome way for people who didn't watch this show to get introduced to Miss Marvel, just like we were introduced to her the first time. So I thought that was a cool, nice little callback, and then to get everyone kind of up to speed with what her deal is, So I thought that was cool. I thought that was some of the best stuff from Miss Marvel. So I liked bringing that back. The Carol, Monica, Kamala versus Darben fight scene, the ultimate, penultimate fight scene, or the climactic fight scene.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. Again, albeit a little derivative of Cap and Bucky versus Tony in Civil War, but I think this works really well. And I thought Kamala, some may say that she leveled up too quickly in her fighting skills from Jersey City to space like that. But her power set was really cool to see on screen. I thought they did an awesome job of her kind of throwing those discs around and hopping all over everything. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, they do. They've done a great job developing out her powers for all this. And the fight scene though, for me, that was because I did think about yours, your citing, but I also really liked the fight scene that brought the battle to the Khan home. Just because the parents are freaking out, that's destroying their home, and it's a whole friggin' mess. And that was I thought that was some of the better stuff visually that they did in this whole movie.
I thought that was cool, and it's like two different endpoints, right? That's like the starting point of what ends up being the final fight scene there, where that's like the final fight scene's a little bit more cleaner, with everyone kind of knowing where they're going to be and how to utilize that kind of entanglement power. Yeah. And the first one's just so messy with so much chaos going everywhere.
Yeah,
definitely. Although I feel as a homeowner now, I see the damage that goes on in the poor Khan's house, right? And I just feel bad. I'm like, insurance is never covering that, man.
I did. I was like, I did think like, I hope to God that Shield is helping out with this after the fact.
Right,
This
exactly.
is bullshit. The other one for me is like I loved the was it the singing planet?
Oh, see,
I
we're on opposite ends on this one. I did not care
Okay.
for that too much. Yeah.
I thought it was utterly ridiculous in the absolute best way. This is definitely like that's one of those things that like to me, I get we have musicals and shit like that already, but like that felt like a like very much a comic book thing. Like we're just gonna a singing planet and that's their language. All right.
I think I would have been fine with it. But once they started, like when they were dancing and having the conversation and kind of carrying the tune, but not really, like then I'm like, all right, just have the dialogue, just let's just cut the crap. I think if everything kind of opened up as like a musical welcoming party sort of thing, like I think that might have worked a little bit better. But if the whole planet, my son, like this is where I feel like it's like really for kids a little bit more.
Well, I am an overgrown kid. So.
Well, yeah. So if it works, I'm not, besmirching it. Just not. It wasn't for me.
You called me immature. How dare you? The first person
I
to ever
didn't
do that
say
in my
those.
life.
I didn't say those words exactly. But yeah. So I thought those were some of the more. Yeah. We'll split a 50-50 on that one. What do you think is going to age the best from this movie?
Miss Marvel. We both agree on that. No
absolutely.
I think just how fun this movie was. Like I look at it now, and it's to me, it feels like a very rewatchable movie. I understand the weight. Like some people may say, well, it doesn't like in the larger MCU is it really going to matter. But when we're talking about rewatchable stuff, I generally first think about like what's one like, oh, I just want to relax and have a good time. And I always say like Deadpool, both of them are immensely rewatchable just because it's just all about Deadpool and just, being a clown and dicking around and stuff like that. This is all about having fun. That this is the same exact thing. Yes, there is like some weight to it, and we can talk about that in a second. But still, like it's to me, this is all about just like having fun above all else.
Yeah, again, this was a fun movie. I think I agree with you. Lighthearted fun. Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. I think all that's cool. I like the Freaky Friday body switches that went on. I think the biggest thing we touched on this a little bit earlier was Kamala dealing with the letdown of Captain Marvel not living up to her heroine expectations there. And I thought that was really the most like one of the more probably the most interesting part of this movie. And I wish they extrapolated that a little bit more, made that more of a main storyline. I think you could deal with some really interesting stuff because you have this, fan who's been watching all this stuff unfold from her TV and from social media and everything, and now she's living it, and it's not exactly what she had in her grandiose mind. So I think that's an interesting through line to play with. Maybe you can pull on that a little bit more with her, in other appearances down the road, but I thought that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I would have liked them to expand on that.
Yeah, I definitely am down for more for that. There's no question about it there. What else do we got here? Oh, well, I mean, like, okay, so again, I understand that we both had like issues with how Dar-Ben was written. Again, I thought it was what was going on up until the end was good. But the thing that I love most is just like she's stealing an atmosphere from a planet. She's stealing like the water from a planet that is primarily made of water. And then she's stealing a sun. Like this is some crazy ass shit that this lady is doing and everything. And like this is again where I had the issue with how the character ended up going at the end because it's just like she's way too smart for all of this stuff. As much as she became predictable for Captain Marvel at the end, it still like everything she's doing was I thought was awesome. And I think when we look back on it, it'll be like, wow, like this is what she did for her people and what she's like doing to these other planets is amazing in both a good and a bad way, which again just makes the ending for her not as strong. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm back. I'm back at it. I feel strong. I feel 100%. So
good.
You were talking about Dar-Ben, right? And
yes. Yeah.
Again, plan. I saw you had in your notes that her plan was terrifying, and I can see that on paper. Like when you think about it, like yeah, she's literally stealing bodies of water. She's stealing oxygen from the atmosphere, right? The sun eventually. But there is not anything in this movie that I would use to describe as terrifying.
No, I mean that's fair. Like they
Yeah.
steal the atmosphere. I mean, well, the people, all the Krull people ended up, dying in that one. But they kind of just leave the water planet and move on from that.
Yeah.
That
It's just again, it felt a little disjointed. So there were times where like,
they
when
kind
I
of
say like
didn't go back to that one at all.
Yeah, because like there's times where it just feels like they got to get to a different point in the movie. You know, they got to reach certain checkpoints, but they have these certain set pieces that occur that kind of take you. That's why I feel like it's like I kind of saw this movie in like a compilation.
Mm-hmm. No, I can see what you're going for there. I mean, we've heard all the different news about it, and I think that knowing there's just been a lot going on with this movie, it makes sense that there's that a little bit of that feeling. Because I think there was one moment where I was kind of like, "Wait, how the hell did this happen?" This felt a little like jump from one thing to the next was a little clunky. The last thing for me is like, I mean, I think the weight of this movie, like right now, it feels like okay, again, we're talking about it's just fun, but what happens at the end with like reality and everything like that, and then Monica Rambeau goes elsewhere, and we find out where that is. I do think that like something it has the potential to have something come from this. Obviously, we know what we're getting, some of what we're getting in Deadpool. But yeah, there's just like you opened up another like opportunity for reality to collapse and bring in new characters and all that kind of shit.
Right, and then you also have the Young Avengers kind of starting to get formed there. So, you know, you got something going on in the cosmic level and the multiversal level, and then this is going to be more the street level advancement of the Young Avengers. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But what do you think aged the worst from this movie?
So, it's Nick Fury. And like, there's an opportunity here to dig into more with this character, and they did it a little bit with Secret Invasion, where he's got this like trauma from the blip. And I totally get it. And it makes perfect sense with the character. They went into it with Secret Invasion. That was some of the best stuff they had in Secret Invasion. And I'm not saying for a character who had all this control and then lost it and then is going through, all this level of trauma, he can't turn into what he is in this movie. But the jump from Secret Invasion to this doesn't make sense.
There's no connection.
Bingo. And like for all the stuff where I say like I don't need the connective tissue like you do for the larger MCU stuff, for this, it's weird.
Just make it make sense. That's all we're asking. You could tell that the people from Secret Invasion to the Marvels, part of this was probably because the Marvels got pushed back and Secret Invasion did as well. But there was no communication. And what I hope is that, and I remember this kind of being discussed like in episode or phase 2 or phase 3, but that there were going to be directors to lead certain parts of like the MCU. So it was like Joss Whedon was one of them. James Gunn was going to be doing like the cosmic stuff, and they would all kind of be giving input to these other directors about their characters and their projects, so that there could be a cohesive through line. And then you have like almost, think of like a pyramid scheme or whatever, with Kevin Feige at the top. You have all of those, cosmic, street, mutant, multiverse, whatever, magic, all kind of discussing amongst themselves and then sharing that down with all the other writers and producers and everyone else.
It makes a lot of sense. And I would love if they developed a type of system like that, because
hopefully that's what they're doing with like the showrunners and when all that news came out about kind of the restructuring of the Disney Plus TV shows. Like hopefully that's kind of the step in the direction.
Because as I think more about this, about what's gone on with Nick Fury here, I'm also thinking back to what happened with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. As much as we both liked that movie, what was the actor? I mean, the director.
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi. Thank you. He hadn't watched WandaVision at all.
Right.
Like, well, I mean, like, how do you not? How do you not have like any research? I'm not saying you need to be a comic book fan. I don't give a shit about that. Like, you don't need to love the book. You don't need to love all the movies and shows. But like, how do you not do that research on what
happened? Just know where we're going. Yeah.
Like what? So that was That's strange. And yeah, to it shouldn't be Feige who's direct, like on top of all of this shit. Like he needs to have his like generals who he's
Yeah, you got to have your
carrying.
capos. Yeah.
Exactly. He's the executive. He's the editor in chief, and then he should have his managing editors.
There we go. Absolutely. I was really disappointed with Captain Marvel's character as a whole. I know she's kind of unemotional by nature, almost like Superman, like alien like, right? In a way, maybe doesn't necessarily interact with her fellow humans very well, but it just seems like she didn't learn how to work with a team ever after 30 years. So we have Captain Marvel, where she kind of works with a team with Nick Fury, and then she comes back for Infinity War and Endgame and realizes the importance of teamwork, where the whole universe is pretty much destroyed. And then she goes back to being alone. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel like there was that much growth in a 30-year time span for, this story arc, essentially.
It's what's interesting. It's when we're in similar ballparks and gradings on a movie, I find it funny when like we like it. We both like stuff for the same stuff, but for different reasons. A lot of time, I actually liked her more in this movie than I did in the other Captain Marvel, where in Captain Marvel, where I get it. She's like just figuring her shit out. There's a whole lot going on with her mentally. She's been brainwashed and whatever. It was kind of hard it was more about the plot than it was about her in a lot of ways. In this, yes, she's a hard ass, but I like that, like a female character that's a hard ass. That can be a bit difficult. But then I see her guard kind of let down with Miss Marvel as much. And then there's like a level of like awkwardness with Monica, which like, I get it. Like you care and like and you love her and there's like but there's uncomfortableness there. I felt like this was a lot better for her, but at the same time, I understand like the point that you're making of the having worked with the team and seeing how the world ends and all of that. That does also like I get that point as well too.
Yeah. I don't know, and I guess obviously like that's kind of what this whole movie is about, right? In part, is her kind of learning how to be on a team and welcome other people and work with other people, right? And not having to do everything herself. Yeah, I get that that's part of it, but again, it's kind of crazy that it takes place in, again, 2025, whenever the timeline is in the MCU, and it goes all the way back to the Marvel, and it's still the same character, essentially. So I don't know. That was a little bit there. You hit the nail on the head with Nick Fury, completely out of place with everything. I wasn't crazy about the singing world, wasn't crazy about the fill-in. And her grill was very off-putting. Did you notice that she had like some sort of like prosthetic teeth in there that had like a metal sort of thing going on there, which it was always on display. It's like she had like diamond veneers.
I feel like I did see it once, but I didn't like. Yeah, no, I don't.
I found it distracting for me. Okay. Where do we go from here? Any unanswerable questions?
You got a bunch. So the one I'll just throw in here is that will Monica Rambeau be involved in Deadpool at all?
She has to be, right? I mean, that would make sense. But yeah, but there's apparently everyone from Taylor Swift is supposed to be in this movie. So I don't know how many more you can fit too in the same breath, right?
I could see her being like an important part of the plot. Totally cool with that. Totally makes sense. Like want to get her back to her reality, whatever, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, like I need this movie to be about Wolverine and Deadpool primarily, and then all the other X characters who like we want to see that. I'm not like this is the time of the mutants. Please make that the primary focus of all this.
Right. No, absolutely. I'm with you. Who do you think will be on the Young Avengers team? And should the Young Avengers be a movie or a TV show?
As for who's going to be on the team, I'm curious. I don't know until we see the mutants get thrown because if they de-age any characters, because we've seen some of that in Marvel before, where like a Cyclops was he Champions? I think is who he was with, but like we have a lot. There's room to mess around with that. We could still see Wanda's kids from another reality get thrown into the mix as well. As for a movie or show, that's a tough question because part of me thinks it's for a show, but if you make it a movie and then like it is a kid's movie through and through, if you market it as that, that could do really well.
like Spy Kids, something like that, like
Yeah.
along those lines. Yeah, I could see that, but I think initially, I think it's a TV show. That's what I say. I'm not sure. Haley Steinfeld is a big draw, big actor. So I think Iman Vellani's getting up there, at least in the terms of the MCU status. But it doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot of putting asses in seats. I know that kind of flies in the face with what I was saying before
Yeah.
about we need to make some actors here, but we're also borderline on the point where with the Young Avengers for me personally, where I don't have that childhood connection to that
Mhm.
group. So I'm starting to age out of it. So where I don't have, the source material that's putting me there, I do want something that's going to put me there, if that makes
Right.
sense.
No, it does, but think about what I said earlier too. At least this is where I start thinking a movie does make sense. Where I like, what were some of like one of the biggest movies of the year was Mario. That was a kids
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse was a massive movie as well. And as much as it's for adults, like it's animation, so people automatically think I can take my kids to this movie. If you
Mm-hmm.
go and I'm not saying turn this into like, it's like little like Mario was for us as much as it was for kids. And you can
Yes and no. Yeah, it didn't really have to deal with like a storyline or
right.
previous storylines if you were to connect it, or if this were to live on its own. There's a couple of questions I think you would have to answer for that.
Sure. But what I guess I'm trying to get at is this is a way to bring in like that younger audience and then
Yep.
get that money where maybe you haven't been getting it in certain spots.
No, I hear you. I hear you. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it is.
Why were the writers or the other powers that be so against Monica getting a superhero name?
You know,
I'm
it's
really confused by that.
it's funny that you call this WandaVision 2.0 in a way because of Monica. And
Hmm.
they obviously the biggest reach of the bunch, but it's like that's where it was similar. Like she was never called the Scarlet Witch, and then she gets called at the
Yeah,
air.
that's true. That's true. I actually didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
But
kind of
this they
funny.
they write it into it though, where she's like, like, oh, I got they kind of joke about it. What's your name? What do you think your name is gonna be? I don't know. Like, so they like kind of have like this meta joke there. So it's like, why not give her the name?
I don't understand it.
Yeah,
I don't.
interesting.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about this already, but why didn't they show more of Captain Marvel's Annihilator moniker and her destroying the Kree AI? I think that would have been very interesting. I thought that was a missed opportunity.
I think leading with it would have really like
Hmm.
leading with it and maybe adding a little more, but leading with it would have made it more impactful, flowed better.
Yeah, 100%. Who had the best performance by a side character? And we got, I think this is just one unit here, the Khan family as a whole.
Yep,
But if you had
100%.
to break it down,
Oh, I
I kind of
think
like the dad talking about a retirement fund to the the workers up on the space stations. It's never too late.
he's probably the right one. Yeah, and the guy's like, I'm 300 years old.
Yeah.
He's probably yeah. I feel like they all had like a moment, but like
Hmm.
not like countless moments. Probably, I think the mom was pretty. They were all funny about like where's Kamala,
Hmm.
and losing their shit about
Or
that.
her like speaking in her native language that she's like going to kill everyone if she doesn't come back
Yeah,
safely. Yeah,
yeah,
that was
that's right.
funny. Yeah.
That was funny. And then what was it? What's and then the brother was like, "Don't die! Like don't die! I don't want to be an only child with just
Yeah,
them."
yeah,
Oh, and
yeah.
then the mom's like,
Again, yeah.
"Yeah," and then mom was also like, "This would be a nice home to raise a family." That's a
Hmm.
yeah,
So that was just Brie Larson moving back in to the Louisiana Maria Rambeau's house, right?
it seemed like but it seemed like the cons were also moving in there too.
So that was my question. My initial thought was like, all right,
That's
that's where they're living now after their house got destroyed.
yep,
But then like it kind of felt like the mother was going through some boxes and she was like commenting on Captain Marvel's things.
yeah. It
So were
seemed
they
like
moving her out and then moving the cons in? Like
no,
I don't know.
because we saw that plate right of her and her like husband who like that was on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it seemed like she was moving back, but maybe they were
Yeah.
moving into like they're all becoming like a what do you call it?
A
Nuke
happy
family.
family.
Yeah, there you go.
Who lost the movie?
Darben.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah.
I don't disagree with you here. I think just Captain Marvel, Brie Larson is a little bit bigger, bigger picture here for me. I think again taking the role didn't do much for me to again really change my opinion on. It didn't really win me over as a character. I don't think the role was really given any favors either by the writing. I thought she was kind of again a little stiff. But I also again falling back in her own sequel where Iman Vellani steals the show. This felt like we already talked about a Miss Marvel 2 more than a Captain Marvel 2. And I think some rumors is that this might be just scuttlebutt. I don't know who said this. I just saw this quickly on Twitter that she might want out of her contract at Marvel, but I don't know.
Brie Larson?
I could just be reading misinformation, spreading that wildly right now.
I thought that she said that she was. I thought I saw that she was still wanted to do it, and then she like stopped herself from.
Oh yeah, okay, or maybe I was maybe I got, so I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, it's so hard with like there's so, obviously there's all but it's just, the internet's crazy in general, but when it comes to like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, she catches so much heat,
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
just
But I think this almost feels like a Mac Jones situation. I think a lot of people failed her in this, so it's like, and I'm not sure if the relate like her being in that role can continue on and having it be successful for her or for Marvel at this point. I think it's almost like I think you got to kind of shelf the character for a little bit, or
yeah,
have her come in like Endgame,
yeah, it's
where there's everyone else and then she kind of comes in at the last moment.
yeah, it's she's. I mean, she caught some bad luck with this one, and then obviously with the first one, there was just so much like toxicity around it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I thought I liked I know I there were this was obviously not a perfect movie. There was definitely flaws with how they wrote and where they some of the stuff they did with the characters. Like it was more about the writing of the plot, I would say. But I liked how she evolved, and I think putting her with Iman Vellani again
Hmm.
could do well. But obviously they're in such an odd phase right now. So
Again, but can you ask, like, how much did Wes Welker want to hang out with Julian Edelman? Like that's kind of what you're asking there.
I mean I guess that's true. I guess that is.
I don't know if they look at it the same way as athletes do, but that's like I feel like that's kind of comparable. Like, this is going to be the person who's going to be
Yeah.
slowly taking you over in your sequel, and then maybe taking over your role. Just overall.
No, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I mean,
It's not an easy situation there, so we'll see how that all plays out. Who won the movie? I think we're in agreement. The aforementioned Kamala Khan, Iman Vellani.
yeah, specifically Iman Vellani. I think she did she like the press tour that she's done, like the little bit she's done with all that
Well,
she's done.
that's what I'm saying, and that's what's getting clips, and that's what's getting replayed and retweets and everything like that. Like I don't really see Brie Larson. I think she was on with Loki, Tom Hiddleston, right after the writer's strike on one of the Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel late night
Oh,
shows. But that was again, it was on the heels of Tom Hiddleston's Loki season 2 ending, so everyone kind of knew what that was and wanted to talk about it. And then you had the Marvels kind of that wasn't out yet that they were also promoting. So she was even like couched with someone else, on to promote her own movie. And then Iman Vellani's kind of going out stealing the show on her own with all this stuff.
by the way, if I'm not mistaken, I forgot. I knew it was scratching at my brain earlier. I'm pretty sure Dar-Ben, Zawe Ashton. I think she's
Tom
with. Yeah,
Hiddleston's girlfriend, wife, fiance, something like that. Yeah.
yeah. So I remember finding that out. I was like, whoa, that's didn't know that. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's Iman
Yeah.
Vellani. Like obviously a big win for Kamala Khan too, but it's Iman Vellani specifically. I think she comes out really well in all this.
Absolutely here. So that's the Marvel's exit survey. Nick gave it an 84. I gave it a 79. That's a CMM aggregate score of 81.5. Good for 33rd in our CMM MCU rankings out of 43 properties. So pretty interesting stuff there. But go check it out if you haven't in theaters. It might be out soon. It might be out of the theater soon, depending on how it's doing. So go see it while you can, Nick, and go get your ticket.